All right, folks, a new study just came out looking at a ketogenic diet and kidney function in people with polycystic kidney disease. And so what typically happens is a lot of times these people tend to progress and lose kidney function. So they compared 3 different dietary strategies. One diet was just a control standard diet. One was the standard diet with water fasting thrown in three days per month for 3 months, and the study ran for 3 months. And the other study was, or the other group was a ketogenic diet. Now this was a relatively lower protein ketogenic diet nonetheless, but what they found was that when looking at renal function, there was a decline in function in the water fast and the standard group, but in the ketogenic group, their function increased. Now, this is consistent with what I've seen in my observation of people going on a carnivore diet. Dr. David Unwin of the UK has published data on that in diabetics with renal function, again, showing a low carbohydrate diet improves kidney function. And again, this is the thing that I think is a key here, is the low carb aspect of that. And so many people have always been under the impression that, it's eating too much protein or meat or something like that is driving renal disease, whereas really it's probably refined carbohydrates and diabetic pathophysiology that's really doing this. And so, this is why, in my view, it is so important to get some research, particularly around things like carnivore diets. And I spent the whole morning emailing every single member of what's called the Cattlemen's Beef Board and the Beef Promotions Operations Committee, which are funded by the Beef Checkoff. And the Beef Checkoff is what ranchers pay $1 for every cattle that they have, basically, or they move every cattle to provide funding for research. And so far, they've been very reluctant, to do any research on the carnivore diet. I had a discussion with the head research PhD there, and she's a dietitian. She says, well, I believe humans are omnivores, and there's no reason to do research on a study that people aren't going to do in a general population. My counter to that is, look, beef has taken a beating over the last 30, 40 years. Consumption is down 30, 40% across the board. 500,000 cattle ranches have gone out of business, right? The beef promotions, or the Beef Checkoff, is not doing a very good job of promoting beef, in my view. If that's your result, you got to look at that and say, well, if you're promoting beef and beef consumption is going down, perhaps you might want to consider a different strategy. And I think that, studying things like a carnivore diet, or they use it as therapeutic protocol, which I promote it for, or if you want to do it as a lifestyle, that's a different issue. But showing that beef by itself actually reverses disease, which is something I see every day, would go a long way to rehabilitate the image of beef, as most people, the man on the street thinks, well, I can't eat too much red meat. Oh, it's bad for me. It's bad for my heart. It's bad for my kidneys, which is total nonsense. And the fact that that perception is allowed out there is a failing, in my view, on these things. So if you're a cattle rancher listening to me, I think your Beef Checkoff money is being wasted in a large way, or it's certainly not being utilized to the best it is. So I've emailed every one of those guys and said, hey, I sent them one of my talks about the carnivore diet, and hopefully I'll get a response, because again, these guys, $40, $50 million to play with every year. They could spend a little bit of money promoting some of these studies. All right, guys, let me know what you think. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.